Hello everyone, it's Bella, the founder of the Embody Wellness Institute and the creator of the sensefulness method for reconnecting to our body language and to the ancestral wisdom for navigating life with pleasure, purpose, and vitality. Today's video is about insecurities and the way we allow some physical ailments or something about us or our life circumstances to define our reality and to define how we choose to live our life. Often we use things that are in us that we perceive as imperfect to limit the way that we live our life, to say, I am this way, so I cannot do this. I am that way, so I should not do that. And I wanted to kind of portray how to actually not only break these limits and perceive them as advantages, but to also use them as almost trampolines for taking you to your dream life, for taking you to the places that you want. So again, I have a personal example. I have a portfolio of things that have happened to me that I think really highlight what to do and what not to do with your insecurities. So mine has to do with an actual physical disability that I discovered I had at the age of 19 when I went for a checkup to an audiologist. And at the time I was like, why am I going to an audiologist? There's nothing wrong with me. And I clearly remember coming out of that booth, right, the audio booth where they check your hearing, and seeing the doctor's or audiologist's serious face as he sat me down and looked me in the eye and asked me very seriously, like, young lady, what are you planning on doing for a living? And I immediately sensed this sinking feeling in my stomach because I saw something coming. And I said international relations or international development. And he looked at me and he said, well, you can forget about it, because with that type of hearing, you will not be able to do any kind of work that has to do with interacting with people or public speaking or anything of that sort. At the time, I felt like someone punched me in the stomach, and it was like the worst verdict I could ever get. For someone that was born to be a communicator, interacting with people, and whose dream was really to do some kind of relations, right? International relations, international development, public relations. That was the worst. It was worse than the death verdict. And so everything he said afterwards is a blur. I can't remember. He probably offered me hearing aids, but I just got out of that office promising myself that I would prove this guy wrong and that I would never use hearing aids, because at the time, the way he structured it all, or the way he presented this message, was that I had a disability, and because of this I couldn't pursue my dream, and I was going to prove him wrong. So I went on to get into the best school in international relations, Johns Hopkins, graduated with distinctions, and then I was accepted to some of the top international development institutions, got to work abroad, found a job in Brazil, was a special advisor to the governor. So just to say that I was able to overcome this disability, not once using a hearing aid, which is not right, by the way, but to show you how my body adapted to really using, I started reading lips, using body language, and really being able to compensate for the things that I could not hear. And that was not the approach that this lasted for at least 10 years. And I don't recommend that approach, even though it is sort of like a first step in dealing with your insecurities. Going beyond your limitation and saying that limitation is not gonna limit me. It's not going to disallow me to do certain things. But one of the things that I didn't do is I didn't accept that I had an issue, which is also incorrect, right? I had to accept it in order to be able to work with it, because I could have been hearing much more, and I didn't have to hide that part of myself from others, because I was constantly worried that someone would find out that I couldn't hear them well, or that I had this issue and someone would find out. So a lot of my energy was spent in trying to hide a part of myself, because I perceived it as a great disability, right? And it wasn't until I moved to Brazil where I started dating my now husband, and his mom turned out to be an audiologist. Look how incredible the universe is. And at first I was so afraid that she would find out, and I really tried to avoid this conversation, but eventually my husband now, he convinced me to go see her as an audiologist, and within a couple of months she was able to completely turn around the way I perceived this issue that I had. Yes, the hearing problem did not change, it stayed the same, but I started seeing it with her help as, instead of a disability, as an issue that I could really live with. And they were tools to help me live with it. They were hearing aids, very modern ones, that I could use just like people use glasses when they don't see well, and there was nothing to be ashamed of. It wasn't associated with something that I couldn't do or didn't make me, an old lady, things that I had kind of created in my mind when I heard that verdict. So the way that you tell that story about a certain thing is really important. So with the help of my mother-in-law, I was able to retell this story and see my hearing problem as just a part of myself that I didn't have to hide from others or from myself anymore. So I started using hearing aids, and my life improved dramatically, because all of a sudden I could hear better. I didn't have to hide anything from anyone. It actually allowed me to open up more to people, to say, I have this issue, could you please speak up? I didn't have to hide a certain part of myself. So instead of spending that energy on hiding this part of me, I could use that energy for something else, right? For being more whole and going forward with my problem instead of fighting against it all the time. And so one of the things that, the second phase that I really recommend, and if you have a certain issue, and all of us have, whether it's a physical ailment or a life circumstance, we always find something to tell a story about ourselves and say, because I'm a certain way, or because I live in this kind of situation, I cannot do this. So it really takes retelling the story and really perceiving it as an advantage in some way or another. Maybe, for me, maybe I started seeing myself as someone that puts on, that's a secret agent when I put on my hearing aids. You have to really use that physical barrier to your advantage, physical or mental or whatever life circumstance, right? So think about the limitations and barriers that you have created in your life, and parts of yourself that you've hidden from others that you're ready to expose and to shed light on, to really break these limitations, go beyond, and create the new you. And the program that I've created, that's not only about retelling the story of who you are, but anchoring it in your day-to-day activities, in habit change, way that you're taking care of yourself, with the little things that define your day-to-day and eventually completely change your life. So if you're interested, send me a text message, reach out to me through whichever channel, social media channel, and I will add you so we can start this program together starting in May. Thank you.